So yeah, I haven't made a review in about a week, probably at this point, maybe a little more. But I went home for Thanksgiving for like 4 or 5 days, and honestly, I just kind of wanted to enjoy that short vacation, and so I didn't make any videos over that time. But I'm making one now, and I'm gonna be doing a Ghostbusters Afterlife review after this. So I did see a couple films since my last review. I've actually been meaning to do this review for probably, I believe it was the day I made my Home Sweet Home Alone review. I watched this, or it was at some point after. But yeah, I've been meaning to make this, and yeah, so it's Netflix's Tick Tick Boom, based on the hit Broadway musical by Jonathan Larson, who you may know as the creator of Rent, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and this is, of course, his first directing job. This was one of my most anticipated of the year. Like, I'm a huge fan of movie musicals, you probably know that, but Broadway adaptations usually don't agree with me is the problem. I've seen a bit of In the Heights. I haven't finished it yet because it's just such a freaking long movie. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes, and I'm like 20 minutes in, so there's that. Dear Evan Hansen, you probably know I hated. That's one of my more viewed videos of the year so far. One of my more viewed reviews, and so yeah, that sucked. And of course, The Prom from last year was terrible, and the Cinderella movie was That was not a Broadway one, but you get my point. I like movie musicals, but a lot of them recently aren't very good. This one broke the mold. This one was awesome. Uh, One thing that did concern me before I saw the movie, though, written by Steven Levinson. And it was the same guy who wrote Dear Evan Hansen. He wrote the movie and the Broadway version of Dear Evan Hansen. And the Broadway one, I'm not a huge fan of. I have seen it now. I didn't see it before the movie, but it's fine for what it is. It's kind of a disturbing story along with the songs, but whatever. And the movie was just outright awful. That is definitely making the top 10 worst of this year, unless that Resident Evil movie is as bad as it looks. Evan Hansen's going to make the top 10. So, yeah, let's get into Tick Tick Boom. The first thing I want to talk about is Andrew Garfield, who plays Jonathan Larson, who was the main character in this story and the creator, as this follows him as he made his first musical, which didn't actually make it to Broadway, called Superbia. And this movie kind of follows like his struggle to get into the Broadway business. It's mostly following him just the last year of making this musical, but when he feels like he's running out of time to finish it and to get something on Broadway. And that's a decent idea for a plot, but Andrew Garfield really pushes this performance. I had no idea he was this good of a singer. He is fantastic in this movie in both the musical numbers and his acting. I'm already seeing Oscar buzz that he is a high contender for a Best Actor award at the Oscars. Apparently him and Will Smith for King Richard are the front runners. I think Will Smith already has an Oscar. Give Garfield some love. Come on. Garfield really deserves the Oscar. He was perfectly cast in this. His singing was outstanding. His acting was perfect. He's still my favorite Spider-Man, obviously, but that's just because he's my favorite Spider-Man doesn't mean that's not a personal bias, though. I just thought I'd mention that because it's like the most famous thing Andrew Garfield's done. But he's done other films, and he's always good in them, whether the film's good or not. Because I'm not a huge fan of that Under the Silver Lake movie he was in. That wasn't very good. But The Social Network, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and this, he always gives it 110%. And this is probably up there with his best film. I'd say, because this one, Social Network, and the first Amazing Spider-Man are fantastic. Like, Amazing Spider-Man is one of my favorite comic book films, so this one's probably definitely up there. But all the rest of the cast does really well. Alexander Shipp, who you may know as Storm from X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, plays his girlfriend in this, Susan Wilson. And again, she does pretty well. All the actors do very well. Both her and Vanessa Hudgens, who's in this very little, actually, do very well. And something else I want to bring up about Lin-Manuel Miranda, in his films, whether they're adaptations from his work or his own films, he will usually give himself like either a small role or a cameo. Like he had a really small role in in the Heights. And he showed up briefly in this. I also want to point out that he did like a song for Rise of Skywalker, and he showed up briefly like in the background during the celebration at the end of the movie, but that's whatever. I can't remember where it was, but I remember seeing him show up at some point. I think it was during one of the musical numbers. But yeah, that's just something weird I thought I'd bring up. Something I really liked about this movie is that it pulled no punches against the industry. Because the acting, the directing, the writing industry, not only just film, but Broadway as well, it's a disaster to get there. Like, getting there is much harder than staying there. I don't think anybody will disagree with me on that. Because getting something made in Hollywood or in New York, it's ridiculous. Especially since in this one, he's apparently been working on Superbia for 8 years by this point. So you can make the argument, yeah, it pulled no punches because it was written by the guy who lived through all this. Doesn't change the fact that he didn't try to sugarcoat the movie didn't try to sugarcoat any of this. The movie hit it just as hard, and I really appreciate that. The songs are all fantastic. I really do. I was kind of iffy on the first song at first, but I really liked it. Like 3090, Boho Days, Sunday, Swimming, all the songs were great. And the last one, Louder Than Words, I was going to say I could see that getting a Best Original Song nomination, but that's not an original song. It's from the musical, so never mind. That's the thing. How long have we been talking about this? Almost 7 minutes? That's the thing about these good movies is that there's only so many ways you could say something is good. There's only so much to talk about. Bad movies I can rant about forever, but the good ones are usually the shorter reviews. Unless there's something like really in-depth I want to talk about. Like I said, the music's so great. Not just the musical numbers, not the songs. The score is very good. The cinematography is actually very well done. Lin-Manuel Miranda, for his first directing job, did a hell of a job here. You can tell he knows how to, unlike a lot of these other filmmakers that are way up their own ass, Miranda, you can tell, at least understands how to make a film. His directing is, he knows how to direct the actors just fine. His cinematography is pretty good. And how he films the musical numbers are pretty well done. Even though a lot of them are just Larson and his friends on stage, because that's kind of what the musical was. Originally, the musical was just a one-man show where he would like talk about it and then perform the musical numbers. This one wasn't the one-man show. He had his friends helping, but I did really enjoy that. I like the comedic beats. There weren't a ton, but there didn't really need to be. This was more of a musical drama than it was a musical comedy. But the comedic bits all worked. I liked all of the characters, because the time period that they're living in and where they're living is getting a lot of like a push of like HIV and AIDS and stuff like that. And Larson's already lost multiple friends to it at the point to where the movie takes place. And Garfield plays this with such his raw emotion that you can see constantly works so well, because you never feel like it's a performance. Same with all the other actors. His friend Michael, I can't think of the guy's name. It's like Jesus something. He does really well in his role he does really well in the role, and you can see both sides of the argument why Michael went, basically the corporate route now, and why Larson is so stubborn about sticking with what he's doing instead of going to work for some corporate firm. You see both sides of the argument, and both of them make enough good points that you can side with either one of them. It's kind of like an industry civil war between two people. Most of you have probably seen Captain America Civil War. You know why that was such a well-written film? Is because both sides made enough good points that you could either be Team Cap or Team Iron Man. It was even marketed heavily that way. This one is the same thing, because you can either side with Michael or Larson, because they both make enough good points to where they both make sense. None of them are overly petty, but neither of them are overly, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but you get my point. So yeah, this is a highly entertaining film. I highly recommend it. If you like musicals, you'll love this as much as I did. This started getting a lot of good press, It seems like most people really like it, pretty much as much as I did. So, yeah, I can't recommend Tick Tick Boom enough. This movie gets an A+, easily. Thank you all so much for watching, and tell me what you thought of Tick Tick Boom. What do you think of movie musicals in general? Because people seem kind of split on that medium. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go make my Ghostbusters review. It's better than you think.